if you're investing.
Investors will.
The podcast for all things real estate investing.
So, welcome back to another episode of Investor One-on-One, the podcast where we connect with the nation's top real estate investors. Today, we got a guest who's not just doing deals, he's doing them smarter. He's done over 750 deals, flipping more than 50 houses a year, building an incredible, efficient, automated system that lets him run his entire business remotely from across the country. Joining us today from Carlsbad, California, is the founder of REsimpli, a game-changing platform that helps investors work less while doing a lot more. Welcome, Sharad Mehta.
Hey, Or, thank you for having me, man.
Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure having you and to learn more about you. So let's just start off with your story and background. How did you first get into real estate, and what led you to where you are today as the founder of REsimpli and investor with many, many deals?
Sure. So I was working as an accountant for one of the top public accounting companies. And in 2009, 10, I started looking at, I love the company that I was working for. I love the people that I was working with. I did not like the work that I was doing. It was very boring tax work. So I started looking at what else I wanted to do. And then I came across real estate, just coming from India. My parents always talked about investing in real estate. It's something like a lot of Indians, the cultural thing, gravitate towards investing in real estate, something tangible. So I started looking at real estate. I was living in Chicago back then and started reading blogs on bigger pockets and got super interested in real estate. So August 2010, I bought my first 2-unit rental property that I still own to this day. And I love the fact that I bought it for 25,000, put 10 into it. I was all in for 35, and I was getting about $1,200 a month in rent. And I absolutely love the idea of getting passive income. So just bought another property a month later, and then one more 2 months later, decided to leave my job and do this full time, and then just kind of grew from there. Then in August 2015, I ended up moving to Carlsbad, where I live now. And at that time, I was doing about 40, 50 flips a year. And I looked at my business, all the systems and processes I would need. And I didn't find anything that got me excited, with wanting to do what I was wanting to do in my business. And I ended up hiring a couple of developers in 2016, 17, just to create something for myself. And then, once I started using it, it just kind of grew from there into what it is now, REsimpli.
Amazing story, man. So you started with that one house in Chicago, and today you have over 750 deals that you've done. How do you decide
Right.
which markets or market to invest in, especially now that you're managing a lot of the properties remotely?
Yeah, so I did not buy in Chicago. I was living in Chicago, but I bought in Indiana. So the reason I bought in Indiana was because Indiana is a more landlord-friendly state. So my idea was to buy passive income. And then when I did my research online, everyone said buy in a landlord-friendly state. And I just happened to live in Chicago, right outside Indiana. And then I drew a radius of 1 mile or 1 hour driving distance from where I was living, and Indiana happened to fall in that. And it got me interested. And I looked at Indiana's laws. They're way more landlord friendly than Chicago. So I decided to invest in Indiana. So it depends on your goal. If you're looking to buy rental properties, I would definitely consider something that's more landlord friendly. If you're doing flips, it doesn't really matter. You could flip in any market, but then it depends on if you're living in like a San Diego area where I live now. It's super expensive. So if it's outside your budget, then I would look at other markets, like go more inland in San Diego or go in a different state.
Perfect. And are there any specific markets that you're investing in right now? And you started in Indiana, like you said. How did you initially start finding your deals, and how do you find them today?
So I still invest in Indiana. I've done like a couple of deals here and there in Phoenix with other investors, but personally, I've only done deals in Indiana, Northwest Indiana, just in one county to be specific. If I were Initially, when I started out, we were pretty much finding very early everything on MLS. This is like 2010, 2011, bunch of deals on MLS. So I was finding everything on MLS. As the market started changing, right now we're doing direct mail, PPC. We have a third party company that we use for cold calling, and because we're flipping these houses, we're still able to buy properties from MLS and other wholesalers.
I know we spoke a little bit about this at Family Mastermind. We spoke a little bit about AI and automation and the future of real estate.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of AI and automation. I come from a tech background as well. And we know that sometimes real estate can sometimes be a bit old school, which causes investors to lose a lot of money, a lot more money than they even realize if they don't innovate. At what point did you realize that automation and systems would be the key to growing your business?
I think it's always been a key. Like when I started, the company was initially built out very specific for my business need. It was very centric around what I was doing. And as we've grown the company, so I'm doing about, at this point, I'm doing about 20, 25 flips a year, but we have investors using our platform that are doing more than that in a month, what I do in a year. So my need from REsimpli is totally different from needs of an investor who's doing much high volume. So as talking to other investors, it became pretty apparent very early on that money is in the follow-up, right? How do you stay in front of the leads? We have tons of investors that are using motivated sellers for lead gen. So you guys could create amazing leads for investors, but if the investors are not getting in touch with those leads in a timely manner and then not following up consistently with them, that's where they're losing a lot of money on the table. So we built some automations in the system where as soon as a lead is created, it could start engaging the lead through text message, through emails, and then could remind you to call and then have that follow-up sequence built out. So that's easily, I would say 75% of the leads that our investors are closing are coming from follow-up. So if you do not have a good follow-up process, if you don't take it seriously, there's a lot of money that you're leaving on the table. I would say, like, you could easily, if you're not following up right now, you could easily double your deal flow just by adding consistent good follow-up in your business.
I love that, man. I agree. Following up is so important. And, a lot of
Right.
investors miss out on so much money and they could easily, convert much more and just by doing these follow-ups and these systems. So thanks for sharing that. And, we talk a lot about automation and there's also some benefits of doing things manually. How do you determine which parts of the business should be automated versus handled manually?
That's a great question. I think something that, with the advances that are happening in AI right now, yes, you definitely want to leverage AI, but if it's something that's very business critical to you, for example, talking to a seller, closing the deal, taking it to the final stages, I would have definitely humans interact with the seller at that point. Like, I would not have AI do that. Like, we have an AI feature built within REsimpli where you can have AI take the call for you and the lead comes in. So at least you're never missing a call at that point. So that part you definitely want to leverage. You still want to have, if you have the capability, you want to have a human try to take the call with the seller. But if your team member is busy, but at least have a fallback of AI take the call. So at least you don't miss the call. If you have after hours, if a seller calls you at 10 in the evening and you don't have anyone on your team able to take the calls, have AI answer the call for you. So that's what you have to do. But then once you gather the initial information and you're talking to the seller about making an offer, like walking them through the process, AI is never going to do, or at least I shouldn't say never, AI at this point is not capable of having the same level of conversation that a human on your team would, because you have the context of your sales process, you have the context of the lead. So that's where you want to make sure you have the revenue generating activities. You have a human taking care of that, but something that, being able to send a text message, send an email, do the marketing, you could definitely have AI take care of all of that. Like all the follow-up sequences that you have to stay in touch with the lead. We have all of that built in, the automation where you can have that taken. And when the seller raises their hand, hey, I'm ready to sell my property, you can have the human take over. But 80-90% of what you need to do with the follow-up, AI can do that, or automations can do that.
I agree. And I agree that a co-pilot approach is needed. You can't depend on that too much or that too much.
Right.
So that's a great point. So Sharad, you've been in this industry for a long time and you also come from a tech industry. So these two industries coming together, there's a lot of innovation. How do you see real estate investing evolving over the next few years, especially with, technology being a bigger and a bigger role? We're also a technology company, you're a technology company. We're trying to make people's lives easier.
Right. I mean, few years is a very long time horizon given how quickly things are changing.
Mhm.
I can only tell you the things we are working on in next, we're recording this on April 3rd. I can only tell you the stuff that we have coming out in next 3 to 6 months. We're going very aggressively in the AI space. We have an update coming in about 5 weeks or so, a big update, and AI, it's built around AI just to help you speak with the leads faster, get in touch with it. Like if you have a lead from a motivated seller come in, we'll help you immediately get in touch with that lead, to help you generate more money. I think one of the challenges as a company that we have to figure out is there's like so much stuff you can do in the AI space, right? You have to step back for a second and say, okay, what is actually going to move the needle that our customers are going to care about? And what stuff is gimmicky that it looks pretty cool, but is it going to help you make money or reduce your expenses or be more efficient? If the answer is no, then you have to appreciate it's a cool technology, but it doesn't apply to me. So that's the stuff that we're kind of stepping back and saying, okay, what can we do? Like next week, we have an update coming out where AI is going to start grading all the calls for you. So you have all the calls that your team is making or receiving. You can click a button and AI gives you a grade. It tells you, we have our own algorithm built out, and it tells you if it's a lead manager or acquisition manager, what did they do good in the call? What could they have done better? So it gives you a very detailed. So it's almost like having a sales coach in your business. Every single call, they're training you, they're coaching you. So those are the things we're working on to make sure that the things that we're working on is actually going to add value to our end customer.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to seeing that. And for investors who are watching this right now, what are some things they can do right now to kind of future-proof their business?
I think some of the important things are as the market is changing, texting and calling is getting more regulated. I would say start investing in more long-term market, especially at real estate investors. We are in a marketing business more than anything. As long as we are consistently marketing, generating good leads, we'll be able to make money. Once we stop marketing, basically our lead flow stops and our deal flow stops. So it all starts with marketing, investing in more inbound marketing like direct mail, motivated sellers, PPC, TV, radio, if your budget allows. I would start looking into that and not rely so heavily on more inexpensive outbound marketing like cold calling and SMS, which are still good to do, still revenue to be made from that, still money to be made from that. But start looking at like 6 months or a year down the road and then start investing in more inbound marketing in your business.
Sure, that's a great point. Let's talk a little bit more about scaling and how investors can scale. What are some common mistakes you think investors make when trying to scale, and how can technology like REsimpli and lead gen services like motivatedSellers.com help them avoid these pitfalls?
I think one thing that we consistently notice is it's a very simple business, but it's not easy to stick to that simplicity. Meaning, when you look at what successful investors are doing, they're consistently marketing, they're consistently following up, and they're consistently tracking their KPIs and making decisions based on that. The biggest mistake that we see investors make is they don't stick with marketing long enough. Like they might come to motivated sellers and say, hey, I want to start doing marketing. They have a budget of, let's say, $3,000. They do it for a month, they don't get a deal out of it, and they say, okay, I can't do this anymore. And then they watch someone else talk about how direct mail is crushing it for them, cold calling or SMS. They go jump on that and they do that for a month or two. They don't get any results. They jump to the third one and the fourth one. So sticking with, at the end of the day, every marketing channel works. Every single one of them works. But the one that you should pick is the one that you can stick with the longest. If you cannot commit to a marketing channel for at least 6 months, then don't even try that. If someone is gonna do motivated sellers, direct mail, PPC, whatever, it might be, commit to it for 6 months and then reevaluate if you do not get any deals after 6 months. If you do not, then you need to question yourself, okay, was it the lead source, the marketing channel that I have, or is it the sales process that I have? If you have leads coming in from motivated sales or PPC, are you getting in touch with those leads quickly? Right? Imagine someone who is filling out a form on, motivated sellers, like they're going through a PPC. It's basically a PPC lead on the back end. They're not just filling out one form, they're probably filling out multiple forms. So when they fill out a form, if you can immediately get in touch with them, you have such a big advantage of closing that deal versus if you wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, right? And then you're not following up with that lead. That's another big mistake you can make in the business, is like not getting in touch with the leads quickly and then not following up consistently with them.
I agree. Consistency is everything. I spoke to an investor yesterday and he was telling me if something's working, and you're consistent in it, just pour everything you have in it. And that's
Yes.
a good way to scale. So, thanks for sharing that. And, Sharad, you have a very impressive background. You've been telling us your story today. If you were to start over today, fresh, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in your real estate career?
Oh man, that's a great question. What would I do differently? I would uh, I would invest more in marketing. I definitely invest more in marketing, commit more to double down on what's working and not get distracted by shiny objects. For example, for me, if I'm sticking with, let's say, one market, or let's say if I'm doing motivated sellers and it's working for me, I'll just double down on that and not watch someone else who's doing good with cold calling and get distracted with, hey, I should go try cold calling, until I have earned the right to move on to a different marketing channel, but it should not come at the expense of the one that's actually working for me. So I think that's where just committing to a marketing channel, being consistent with it, is something that's very important.
And if you could share just one piece of advice or a quote that has the biggest impact on your success as an investor, what would it be and why?
I come from an accounting background. So for me, it's about do the boring things better than anyone else, because the money is in the boring things, right? I mean, it's like losing weight, right? I mean, there's no secret to being healthy. It- you could have all these fancy diets, but it's pretty simple. Like you go to a gym, you eat healthy. There's like nothing else. Like there's no fancy, ways to do that. I mean, yeah, now you can take pills and stuff, but that's if you want to go down that, someone wants to go down that route. But it comes down to, are you going to the gym regularly? Are you eating healthy? And as long as you're doing that, you are gonna get in better shape. Like there's no two ways about it. I think it's the same thing with real estate investing. As long as you're marketing, you are have a good sales process where you follow up consistently, and then you are looking at your data, your KPIs, and making better decisions on the marketing, especially on the data part of it. I think people don't look at it, they don't take it seriously enough. So for me, it comes down to like, be better at doing the boring things than anyone else out there. Like as long as you do that, you'll do really good.
That's an amazing quote. Someone told me that I think like a year ago, and it stick to me like every day. Like
Right.
it's more than you think what it really is. So that's really great. Thank you for sharing.
Right.
And to conclude this amazing interview, what's next for ReSimpli and what's next for you, Sharad, both personally and in business?
And personally, nothing exciting. I live a pretty boring life. I live in my own bubble in Carlsbad. Like it's a very small town, but even within that, I live in the neighborhood that I live in. Like everything is within walking distance. So I kind of stay within that bubble. Like I'm pretty admittedly ignorant about anything else going outside of kind of my bubble. So personally, nothing exciting. I mean, we have a few trips coming up, with family that I'm looking forward to. But business wise, we have some really cool things we're working on. We have a an update coming on May 9th that I'm super pumped about. Yeah, and then some other things that we're working on down the road, like end of Q3, Q4, we have some cool things we're working on going into a couple of other verticals and stuff that I'm pretty excited about doing this year.
Sure, sounds exciting. So
Yeah.
again, thank you so much, Sharad, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on Investor One-on-One. If our investors want to connect with you or learn more, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can either go to REsimpli.com, REsimpli.com, or they can email me, Sharad@REsimpli.com.
Perfect. And to everyone that's watching, thank you for tuning in. Stay connected for more interviews with the nation's top investors. Thanks, Sharad.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, man.